Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I think we're okay to start this webinar now. My name's Gary Watson, and I'm joined here by my colleague, Dennis Perkins. So, if people are new to these webinars, they'll take about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes maximum. The purpose of them is just to give you a low-cost opportunity to either find out about something new that we're trying to do at IFTC to serve our core market more efficiently and more effectively. And we also run these webinars on matters of technical issues, where we're trying to share new thinking, new thoughts, and try and prompt the debate. So if you watch out for these invitations coming through in the future, whether it's about developments at IFTC or something pertinent to the industry, hopefully you'll find them low cost, interesting, and convenient. So the one today really is about a new program that was developed by Dennis and sanctioned recently by the Civil Aviation Authority, by Neil Gray in particular, around Dennis's innovation on how we revalidate competence. And traditionally, people would come in for an initial course, they'd maintain the competence either at back at the station or at IFTC occasionally, then come to IFTC or an ATP, get their revalidation, and then go on with their maintenance. Now, one of the problems that I presented was releasing people for a week every 4 years. It might not sound a great deal, but obviously, you know, when things are tight in terms of budgets, every little bit counts in terms of the actual cost of sending people away and covering them back at the station. So what we've developed at IFTC is a means by which we can provide exercising programs on an annual basis, so when people are actually having those exercises, that we conduct the assessments. By doing the assessments when people at IFTC having their exercises, we can revalidate their competence on a modular basis. And I'll be coming back to that in a wee bit more detail, or Dennis will be, in a slide or so's time. So the idea is, by coming to IFTC and exercising within an agreed assessment regime, you do not need to send your people away every 4 years for 1 week to have their competence revalidated. So in summary, what I'd say is that, and this can be tailored for each particular airport, but one of the standard ones that we looked at was over that 4-year period, everybody would be involved in 12 exercises. They'd have at least 6 observations during those exercises, 2 oral tests and 1 written test. So there's a formal structure there to make sure that when people are visiting IFTC for their annual exercising, they understand which parts of the work they're going to be assessed on. Now, I'm just going to pass over to Dennis because we're going to get into a bit more detail now on how that actually works.
Hi guys, just to give you a brief understanding of how this came about. There are a number of aerodromes out there that actually are looking at revamping or maintaining quite costly rigs, or maybe even changing the rigs. And the cost for that can range into the hundreds of thousands to the millions, as you well know. We do have a number of aerodromes that use IFTC facilities for their training, and that is basically the hot fire training, the BA training, and so on. A number of airports still use it at that. So, in my wisdom, I basically come up with a policy and a scheme, a plan, where we can fit sections of assessment over a period of time, so each role, the firefighter, crew commander and supervisor, will be maintained and certificated in their competence at that particular role. It also allows a flexibility for personal development. For example, if you see a firefighter that you see potential to be a crew commander, we could actually have that scope to deliver assessments in that crew commander mode as well. So it's very much bespoke, and we can tailor this to suit majority of aerodromes. What you see on the screen now would be a typical watch plan. So we've developed a system where each individual will have to be involved with 12 exercises over whatever period of time is chosen up to 48 months. The reason it's 48 months is because if it takes you 48 months to revalidate, there isn't a great deal of difference of what we do now, other than actually moving out your station and being away from your station for a full week. So this particular watch, it is an aerodrome that is in the process of signing up to this system. Comes to IFTC every 3 months, so there's 4 times. Now, in that period of time, they'll be having 4 exercises. Now, when I say every 3 months, there's all watches to go through. So basically, one watch will come to IFTC twice in a 12-month period and have 4 exercises. So you can see the 4 exercises stipulated there. Total exercises that that group will do is 16, and out of that 16 exercises, there has to be involvement in at least 12 of them, and assessment on 6 of them. So if you look at the assessments there, you can see on exercise 1 of the first visit, firefighter 1 will be assessed in D1 and D2, and I'll explain what that is later on. Firefighter 4 will be assessed in M1, M2, firefighter 7, FO1. At the same time, the crew commander M&L and C and the supervisor will be assessed during that visit, but the third exercise. So it's easily manageable assessments, not one long assessment. So we're taking snippets. Now, to record these snippets of information, we've developed a program, basically a portfolio for each one of the individual roles, and this is just an example of what will be in that portfolio. So, for example, where we've got supervisor there, you can see we look at incident command as being one of the areas of assessment, management and leadership, and communications. Now, each one of those assessments will be a standalone assessment, but once they join together, they'll form a substantial, robust assessment process within that portfolio. The individual will have to do certain things like fill out details of exercise and so on. So it's an interactive approach as well. That portfolio, that's just an example of what it would look like. This is for a firefighter, and you can see there, this is the first phase where that explains what will be assessed at, what the exercise details were, and how the assessment will take place. And eventually, once that portfolio is completed, we will then issue a certificate of competence for that particular role. And we start a blank new portfolio on the next visit. So it's a rolling process. If one of the assessments is missed by that individual, they can catch up. As you can see from the plan, we have gaps there where there's plenty of time to catch up. And there has been sort of questions about if we run this scheme for a number of aerodromes, and a particular aerodrome was using IFTC, and you had a firefighter, for example, that needed to complete the portfolio, then he could actually, or she could actually come to IFTC for that day and get their assessment caught up with another group. Because the general idea is that everybody will be using the same training material. In amongst this, we've got our iLearn portal, which will offer a standardised training format for all people involved. And it is our standardised training that we use at IFTC. So when we talk about incident command, it's how we deliver training on incident command. When we talk about firefighter skills, it is what we teach on our firefighter initial. All the other stuff that you do at your aerodromes around that, such as your topography, your maybe cutting equipment and all that, it just adds to this portfolio. So what you'll actually get at the end of it, similar to a firefighter reval or crew commander reval, whatever, is a cross-mapping to CAP 699, if you see on the screen there, all the elements and units that role is actually assigned to, and then you'll be given a certificate of competence. If you notice, our certificate will be changing. We have a new International Fire Training Centre logo. As you know, we are accredited now by the City and Guilds governing body. We've also got a partnership with the University of Wolverhampton. BTEC also assigns certain courses to IFTC and ICAO and Civil Aviation Authority. So that's a new certificate coming out in the future. Other than that and the portfolio, there isn't a great deal to say. Suffice to say, I suppose, that I noticed that we have a couple of people on the line that aren't within UK. Now, there is scope with this system where we can give you details and log in online, all the iLearn training portfolios, and I would suggest that there probably somewhere where we could actually come out to you and carry out assessments. So you have developed your own training program with us, similar to what we've got there, then we would send, rather than you come here for the periods of time, say 3 or 4 times a year, I could easily send an instructor out to assess 3 or 4 times a year based on what you've done on iLearn and watching practical demonstrations.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. So we recognise that this particular programme won't be for everyone. Yeah, it was particularly designed for those people who either don't operate their own rigs, or perhaps are operating their own rigs and those rigs are coming up for renewal, and the capital cost of replacing those and having all of the foam disposal and the wastewater disposal, of those costs were prohibitive. So we recognise that this product will not be for everyone. It's for those people who need to have access to a fairground. But for those people who can make the most of this offer, we're looking at lower costs, because obviously we're taking out the need to attend once every 4 years for the revalidation. It also takes out the cost of running your own rigs and all of the maintenance and waste disposal around those. When people sign up to this, and we've got one airport signed up already. I mean, this was only signed off by the CA about 2 weeks ago. We've got one airport signed up with another 4, giving us verbal indication, very strong verbal indication that they're going to sign up. What we look to do is we engage with those people, and because they're signing up for 4 years, because that's the duration of the revalidation of competence for the ones that are interested so far, we can actually make an improved offer around the other open courses, so you can access discounts on the mandatory courses. And obviously by getting more people into the pot, it creates greater flexibility for those participating airports. So the people the airports that are coming into the scheme are saying if one of their guys miss one of the courses, could they attend a course with another crew? And so far those aerodromes are saying, yeah, absolutely, because it's they all benefit from that give and take. So some good flexibility around that. What I would say as well, obviously, is that the IFTC is probably the lead aviation fairground in Europe, and we could offer greater variety to those organisations. If they're on the cusp of thinking, do we replace the rig, one of the advantages of coming to IFTC, apart from hopefully the cost savings, is greater variety, greater testing of the crews, a more demanding training experience. And like Dennis mentioned earlier, we're the only ATP in the UK with City and Guilds accreditation and the University of Wolverhampton badge, so you know that you're getting trained up to national standards. And as ever, IFTC, this is our core business. It's all we do. We want to make sure that when you come to us, the delegates, your experience, the integrity of the training is very much the focus of our attention. And we can do that. Like I say, we don't do anything else at IFTC. Now, what I did here was just pull up a couple of quick questions that were being asked about this to date. I'll certainly go to the first one in terms of why the CAA approved this. Neil and the team at the CAA were quite pleased to see this because they think it can offer some flexibility to the aerodromes when they're facing the dilemma about maintaining the competence and actually, the cost of the rig. And they see this as a lower cost alternative to the aerodromes that they seek to serve. Dennis, I know that we've been asked about how does it synchronise with the current arrangements in terms of if people have got 2 years left on the ticket or whatever.
Yeah. It's very similar to an MOC. You could probably look at this as if it is your own MOC. However, you haven't got the costs of your rigs, your environmental issues and so on. What you're using is IFTC's facilities and training plan and iLearn portal. So it's an enhanced offer. It's almost like a remote MOC, and you probably know when you join an MOC scheme, on day one that you join, you are issued with a certificate of competence, and you maintain that competence there and in. And once we fill the portfolio details out, you'll get another certificate of competence, and that will be sort of a rolling system. Now, if somebody leaves the system, in the meantime, then they will be given, that certificate is no longer valid. It's up to the next aerodrome. We can pass on the information of the training delivered so far, and it'll be up to the next aerodrome to look at that individual and develop what gaps need to be developed for that sort of training portfolio. But generally, it's no different to someone stepping out of an MOC scheme now and wishing to go to be employed at an aerodrome that is not in an MOC scheme. Exactly the same. In fact, Neil Gray described it as a remote MOC scheme. So if you get your thoughts around that system, and then you can understand the advantages.
So I think some of those other questions we've already answered in terms of a crew member missing a day, or maybe having to leave partway through for an emergency. We can always catch up with the assessments by getting them onto another session. And you've obviously seen examples of the documentation involved through the initial program, how across maps and the final certification. So we undertook that we'd try and keep this down to 20 minutes, 25 minutes. This is the final slide. What we'll be looking to do is get in touch with the individual airports in the coming weeks to explain the commercial offer. I mentioned earlier about discounts on mandatory courses and how you can save on the cost of the reval, and to answer any questions. And Michael will be reaching out to people across the UK and Ireland in the coming weeks. Now, I don't intend to say anything more at this stage because I think we've been going on for 17 minutes now. Now, I know this is difficult because there's a few people on the call, but does anybody have any questions on anything they've seen or heard?
It's James Miller here at Inverness. No questions as such. You'll obviously be aware of the fact we've got a well-established MOC scheme here. Yep. So the relevance of it isn't really there for us at the moment, but I think it's important that we keep an open mind to future developments in the industry, and we'll certainly be keen to hear a little more detail on it. Yeah,
I would agree with that. We have had a few aerodromes that have their own MOCs. They may not be interested in the full scheme, but if you imagine this is at its infancy, the way we see this going is that we will post all our training material on iLearn, which is an interactive learning portal with assessments built in and so on. Now, you may want to enhance your MOC scheme with a standard interactive learning portal. So therefore, you keep your own MOC scheme, you use our training material that we've got online, and then you just buy certain login times and dates and so on. So you can sort of go through independent assessments, if you like, but maintain your own scheme. There is also another scheme that we're looking at where we invite seconded supervisors, maybe training people from your aerodromes to come and visit IFTC and mirror the instructor through mandatory courses and so on. Now, as this develops, there is no reason why you can't use your own seconded training people when you come to IFTC on our resources. So therefore, you're just using it as if it's your back door. So the only cost is you're travelling to and from.
So just to make sure that's clear, James, and thanks for the question. If you send somebody to IFTC for a week to shadow an instructor, we can accommodate them without charge. So free accommodation, and we take care of them. Glasgow Prestwick and quite a few other airports now are sending us their supervisors just so they can get some exposure to the training. One of the other things that we're doing this year is introducing a petals course, which is like a trainer and assessor course. And some people are looking to do the 1 week course with us and then stay on for the following week and actually apply some of that learning as part of that second week being free to apply the learning actually on the fire ground. What I'll do as well, James, is I'll send you a link to the webinar that we did on iLearn, the online learning platform, so you can see what it's like, and so for the kind of structure of your airport group that may be of interest to you in terms of low cost access to mandatory material. Yeah.
Certainly interested to see that, and the supervisor shadowing of an instructor is an interesting concept that I think we will probably explore further with you.
Yeah, that'd be great, James. And if you think about the iLearn portal as not just IFTCs, it's somewhere in the great internet, but there's no reason why you couldn't put your own training material on it.
Mm-hmm. That actually does parallels there. We've got strangely we've chosen to call it e-learning, and we've got a very similar thing that's up and running now to do with more the administrative side of the business.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, so I'll send you those links, James. Anyway, and thanks again for the question.
Okay.
Any other questions before we look to sign off? Okay. Well, thanks everyone. I'll be sending this webinar out by email. I'll put it on the LinkedIn group as well. So if you want to share it with any colleagues or other airports that you think might be interested. So thanks for attending this Lunchtimes event. Watch out for further invitations because we'll do these every 2 or 3 months or so, either on product development or on a technical issue. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Good stuff. Thank you, chaps.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.